Big time! I'm on my way, I'm feeling it. Big time! I got the message. Well, we're gonna do a retro review. Dude, it's like a photographic memory, even though I watched majority of this like many years ago. Like, wrestling was different into a whole thing that I could watch it every week and always get excited over an episode. Well, this is WrestleMania 22 from the... Jesus Christ, where were we? Oh, right. We weren't in stadiums back then. We were in the Allstate Arena and Roseman Horizon Center in Chicago, Illinois, in the hometown of CM Punk. If you remember, he was one of the Mafia dudes in John Cena's entrance when he faced Triple H. That's the only time people even reference it. Reference WrestleMania 22, even though this was a pretty memorable WrestleMania, especially for the Ruthless Aggression era. It was April 2nd of 06, and it had a capacity of about 17K for an arena size. That's a pretty large margin, but yeah, it would take until like a while until we got used to WWE. They were still in like major arenas, like they were in Seattle's field last time. They were in a major stadium capacity. Then they were in Madison Square Garden around 04. And then they were in Hollywood for WrestleMania 21. And now we're in Chicago. We had a big time field because, of course, Chicago used to be known for theater and a lot of big time movie events. Yeah, that happened. And, bro, let me just tell you, bro, like, we had major build involving trying to build over Cena, and what a person to get him over like Triple H that, you know, we're a year removed from his reign of terror after losing the World Heavyweight title and losing a repeated, an extended rivalry with Batista, ending with Batista getting over in all 3 pay-per-views from WrestleMania to Backlash to Vengeance. And Cena is now the top guy after getting drafted from SmackDown. We're a year removed from that as well, after he beat JBL, and he's been world champion ever since, until he lost at New Year's Revolution to Edge, and then won it back at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view 3 weeks later. So, that happened. By the way, we also had, our second Money in the Bank briefcase ladder match that involved Rob Van Dam, Bobby Lashley, Ric Flair, Finlay, Shelton Benjamin, and Matt Hardy. I think our opener was Mccain and Big Show against Carlito and Chris Masters. And Kane and Big Show were the biggest World Tag Team Champions on the planet. In WWE history, because, there were 2, above average, one of the biggest sized mid-carders that realistically couldn't be beaten clean that consistently against mid-carders, so why not? With Masters and Carlito tagging at the same time. I think they broke off to wrestle at Backlash after the pay-per-view. And, we had a drop kick. A few attempts over the Master Lock that Kane could obviously overpower. I think it ended with a double choke slam. Kane and Big Show retained, and there was a break-off with Masters and Carlito after the match. Not much I remember that fondly about it. But Kane's entrance was cool. He didn't have a cool Mania entrance in my opinion since, the year before. I think, cities looked on fire and shit. That was so cool. Plus the ladders were on fire because, the year before Kane was in the first Money in the Bank briefcase ladder match at WrestleMania. But, looked good. I didn't mind the Kane and Big Show world tag title reign. Even though that was when, Cade and Murdoch were a tag team at that point. And it took a while until Jeff would come back from the company. Because I think around, early 06, he was still on TNA. Before he got re-signed by WWE later around. I think it was 2005 or 2006. Either way, this would be the last WrestleMania that we would see Kurt Angle on. Then we had the ladder match, bro. That was such a valid match. Shelton... After, he did a flying clothesline, he did a springboard senton over the outside. Ric Flair took a massive bump over the ladder after, I think he was fighting over with Finlay. And it ended with him getting flat on his back, bro. Jesus Christ. It ended with Rob Van Dam winning. And bro, this was just such a fun match. If you ever tell me like what makes the big highlight back in the day whenever you watch WrestleMania, I'm just gonna say just remember the Money in the Bank ladder match. Any other fan would tell you that until they just plaster it and just make it its own identity on pay-per-view when it does like less interest and it's not a major part of the show. Thanks, the world title match is always gonna main event it anyway, and that's about it. It's just a gimmick pay-per-view. It doesn't sell off as one of the major attractions to watch a show. Then we had a U.S. title match. Bradshaw loses to Chris Benoit via tap out. Bro, I'm trying to like remember majority of what happened over the match. Just German suplex over German suplex. I think there was one near full over the crossbody. I mean no, over the big boot. The cabinet got really involved in the match and ended with JBL actually winning the U.S. title over Benoit. And Benoit, he got the U.S. title anyway, and you know what happened with him, like, around 05 to, like, 07, he held the U.S. title until he killed his family. And I don't think many people forgot JBL's U.S. title reign, even though you'd think with a tycoon character like him, he would hold the U.S. title a lot more in his career. But he'll end off, like, winning the IC title around Mania 25. Even though I wouldn't mind him as World Heavyweight Champion. That would have been really cool. 2-on-1 handicap match. The Boogeyman against Sharmell and Booker T. And Booker T won in like a massive squash match after like later on he became the World's Heavyweight Champion. Sharmell was like part of the corner, and of course you know his future storyline with Kurt Angle. He was of course getting harassed by the Boogeyman, getting worms in the locker room, like a whole build on like him trying to like finally face his fears of the Boogeyman, even though later on there would be Boogeyman as like a comedy gimmick, even though majority of his thing is like people just run away from him because he's a freak. But yeah, Boogeyman looked highly dominant, even though for a majority of his career like nobody took him that much serious. Then we had Mickie James versus Trish Stratus. Of course everybody knows the Vag. Oh man, Trish Stratus and Mickie James. Two hot women in the WrestleMania and the title match. You don't see that much anymore. I don't care how much you're trying to like support the new roster. It sucks. Let's just be honest. People only remember this match because Mickie James grabbed the crotch of Trish Stratus. Massive moonsault over to the outside. Well, these women were trading blows around for majority of the year after the whole superfan character. Misses out of the Trish kick. Of course, we got Mickie James DDT. Ending over the match, and Mickie won her match after literally kissing and catching Trish Stratus off guard. One of the biggest highlights of her career, and one of the most memorable moments over the most controversial storyline. Probably the whole Divas history in WrestleMania, and probably the most memorable parts whenever you go watch Ruthless Aggression Raw. Next up, we got Undertaker versus Mark Henry. I think one of the most the most forgettable Undertaker matches, other than that high diving senton Undertaker started doing for a majority of his Mania matches until like I think 26. He stopped 27. He stopped doing that. He did a choke slam, a hit over to the steps. It ends with a choke slam over to the casket, and the casket match was won. I forgot why Mark Henry was even feuding with Undertaker until Undertaker came back over an injury. After Edge cashed in, they would fight again on Unforgiven. So that's a majority of interest that I had in the whole match. Undertaker just got another win for WrestleMania, and Mark Henry was just there. Honestly, it's like Mark Henry. I like the whole World's Strongest Man character. He was building up more around it, and after sexual chocolate phase. But you gotta give him the world title a bit earlier when he was a more consistent threat. But he was more of a grunt. Like, he was a big heavyweight grunt, even though he would lose to still some main eventers. Like, I think he lost to Bobby Lashley a lot of times, Batista a lot of times, dog. And Batista couldn't be there in the event because he was suffering over, I think, either a hamstring injury or something. So before the year even started, Kurt Angle came as a surprise guy on Raw, from Raw, returning on SmackDown, winning a 20-man battle royale. And I swore back in the day, like any other time you remember SmackDown, it was a stupid battle royale for a championship match or something. It ended with Kurt Angle winning the entire thing. And that's why he's World Heavyweight Champion coming into the event. Then we had Michaels versus Vince McMahon. Bro, this match was insanity. Oh god, hits with the trash can, super kick with the trash can, coast to coast on Michaels with the trash can, sweet chin music. There was a missed hit over with a steel chair with Shane McMahon trying to help and hits Vince. Bro, this whole thing we're trying to make Shawn Michaels' life a living hell. Vince was A1. If you always want to see a segment involving Vince McMahon, it's either watch a shit from Attitude Era or just watch a shit from '06. Vince was, when he's a heel, as much as we want to make him a piece of shit, he's one of the best characters on TV when it comes to playing a piece of shit boss. He always plays it well. You love whenever he sees his ass kicked. That elbow drop with the D-Generation X, ending the match, looked awesome. Then the Spirit Squad happened. That's all I gotta say about that. That's practically it. Then I feel like we're forgetting another match. Oh yeah, I missed the hardcore match involving Edge and Mick Foley that Joey Styles was a part of, coming around being like, "Oh my god!" from the fucking spear through the second rope. There was also a Russian leg sweep with the barbed wire, then putting Mr. Soccer with the barbed wire and hitting both Trish Stratus and Edge at the same time. Then a spear. Then there was like multiple concertos, dog. Like, these guys were relentless. And then ending with Edge getting over, bro. Made him look like a star. Mick Foley doing his damnedest to get Edge over, making him feel like the opportunistic psychopath he is, and ending it in such a cool ending. Look, one of the most memorable parts of Mania. There were so many spots in this Mania that makes it so memorable, and why so many people still rewatch it for this day. And it's only a 4-hour pay-per-view. 4 hours WWE can look good. 2 nights of WrestleMania, nobody can remember a damn match from last year. I'm being serious. Also, we had the World's Heavyweight title match involving Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, and Randy Orton. And this is sadly not in the showcase mode. I don't know if it's contracted obligations Kurt Angle has because he's not in the company anymore, or they just didn't have time to do the footage even though they had a whole 2 years. I don't get it. This is a career-making highlight for Rey. Or when he won the World Heavyweight title again, but I can understand why. I guess because CM Punk's on AEW, that means they can't use it because he's not really a wrestler for them anymore. So I can understand why they don't have him in his storylines with Punk. But it's kind of stupid. Cyber Sunday 07? Like, really? I don't get it. When the lights go on and the day is on. Are you ready for this? Because I'm not ready for you, bitch! We had like a double German suplex. Dropkick on Rey Mysterio. Oh my god. Randy Orton looked insane. Always cooking Rey whenever he thought Rey had a chance to take advantage. Kurt came around like looking like a badass the entire time, nearly making it with the moonsault. Then it ends with the 619 and Rey taking advantage, pinning Randy Orton to win his first ever World Heavyweight title. And then the mediocrity ensued. Yeah, it's always great when Rey was like chasing the title, but he obviously didn't look legit because he was undersized at the time. He really didn't have that much promo other than I got a dick on me like a 40. I'm a man. Yeah, man. I'm a little man with a big heart. Or that's what Michael Cole says. Or that's a euphemism. Familia. It just... Rey always sounds like he obviously had a major history with cigarettes. Possibly. I mean, he probably did smoke, but not that much. But somehow his voice just aged into that. Because he's been wrestling since he was a teenager. But it was great to see that moment. Highlight, great entrance by Ray last Mania until 34 for Kurt Angle. And another headline for Randy Orton, nearly winning the World Heavyweight title after he won it like 2 years prior. Then we had our Playboy Bunny fight with Candice Michelle and Tori Wilson. Tori Wilson won. And we had John Cena and Triple H in our main event for the WWE title. And John Cena looked good. Coming over the pedigree, Triple H using his experience to always outsmart him and counter whatever everything was up. Sledgehammer really came into effect. There was the FU and then the STF, with Triple H literally doing the ultimate way to get a guy over, and that's tapping out. And that foreshadowed, like, after Mania, the episode I watched. And then it ended with, of course, the triple threat match at Backlash the same year. And for Rey Mysterio, like, that's of course one of the greatest moments from Rey Mysterio's career, finally getting over the hump. But without Eddie Guerrero passing, I think the expense of Rey actually becoming a headliner wouldn't be due to his relationship with him. That's just my opinion. I know it's heartless, but it's true. Let's be honest. He would have been facing Chris Benoit or somebody else in the mid card at Mania. I'm not saying that nobody wouldn't care about Rey if he didn't know Eddie, but that would be technically it. But this was a great great career highlight for him. Not to take anything away, but that's technically what would be the circumstances if some stuff didn't tie out the way it did. But it's still great to see that moment. Other than that, WrestleMania 22, one of my favorite WrestleManias that I rewatched as a kid. And, just a lot of major stuff that's happened. This was still, like, a time when WWE was, like, watchable on TV. Like, this is just months removed from this live sex celebration. Cena's feud with a rapper. Rey Mysterio's push to the headlines with with his whole representation of Eddie Guerrero, and just great memorable matches that people still talk about to this day, man. Like, you can't go bad talking about a show if you remember so much, and you don't even have to watch the show. Probably when I'm doing more retro reviews, I'll try to find old episodes so I can rewatch them and put them in higher detail, so I can get more in depth. But that would take a bit more time, and I have WrestleMania right now to deal with around the weekend. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching the DST show, and that's it from me.